You had Aaliyah, Brandy, and Monica.
If it wasn't for Tony, oh.
Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic that I've been thinking about for a while, and I mentioned it here and there. And if you watch my previous videos, going like months back, I always mentioned this topic, but I never really dove deep into it. And it's going to be about the whole Aaliyah-Brandy-Monica debate, feud, and discussion. You know what I'm trying to say? Because you know what I noticed? I'm a fan of all of them. I'm mostly a Aaliyah fan, but I notice when there's a debate about Aaliyah's legacy or her success, and you know, when people want to bring up Aaliyah versus Beyonce and stuff like that, Brandy and Monica always comes into the argument. You know, Brandy and Monica, their success is always used as a way to downplay Aaliyah's. You know what I'm saying? Like, the main thing you always see in an argument is, oh, Aaliyah couldn't even outsell Brandy and Monica. How is she going to outsell Beyonce? She couldn't even outsell Destiny's Child. Da, da, da. Brandy and Monica's success is always used as a way of determining how Aaliyah would not be as successful today. When I'm like, the way people talk about it, you would think that this is not a downplay to Brandy and Monica either, because they all did their thing, right? But you would think that Brandy and Monica was doing like Michael Jackson numbers. You know what I'm trying to say? But they all had around the same amount of numbers. Like I said in my other video, what I'm gonna leave right here about Aaliyah's legacy, Aaliyah, Brandy, and Monica, they all had their individual strides and peaks. Meaning, there were times when they all had success. There were times when they all didn't. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, there were times when one of them was at the top, and one of them might have been in the middle of the charts. One of them might have topped the chart. One of them might have been, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, they all had their successes where it was like, it wasn't like one of them was outdoing the other two. Two of them was outdoing the other one. You know what I'm trying to say? They all had their individual strides and peaks in the industry, on the charts. You know, just success in general. Album sales, things like that. So when people try to use Brandy and Monica's success as a way of saying like, oh, Aaliyah wasn't even as successful as them. And I'm like, really? How wasn't she? Because if you look at the numbers, they're neck and neck. And to be honest, Aaliyah would be in the middle. You know what I'm trying to say? Because Brandy had like in the 90s, Brandy had the edge. She had those extra mainstream platforms to help edge her out. Meaning where she had Moesha, her own TV show. She had Barbie doll. She was in the Cinderella movie. She had all these different things. She had a CoverGirl contract. She had all these different things that propelled her to that big mainstream platform. Whereas Aaliyah and Monica, they in the 90s, they only had like music. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, they covered magazines, and Aaliyah was a part of Tommy Hilfiger. That edged her out a little bit, but Brandy was doing many different things, many different fields. She was in movies, TV shows, you know, she was doing it all, like the real triple threat in the 90s. Which you know, that made her sales be a little bit more and things like that. But it's just like, but then you can reverse it in the 2000s. That's when Aaliyah was really taking over. And that success and mainstream platform that Brandy had in the 90s, Aaliyah had in the 2000s, 2000, 2001. She signed up for all these movies. She had already did movies. She was doing all these business deals, and she was really branching out of just doing music and expanding her platforms and her business deals and her brand. You know what I'm trying to say? She was going to do clothing line, hairline, perfume. She was really going to brand herself as, you know, not just, oh, the R&B singer. She was going to be like Aaliyah, the superstar, the celebrity, the businesswoman. And that's not a dig towards Brandy and Monica either, because in the 2000s, I remember in the early 2000s, I think Brandy had gotten pregnant. So she kind of like, you know, she took a break. Monica, she had took a break, but they both came back successful because, you know, Brandy came back with Full Moon, 2002. Monica came back with So Gone, 2004. So, you know, they all had their success even after that. But it's like, you could tell in the 2000s, when the 2000s hit, Aaliyah was really about that business. She was really about that movie, TV, music, brand deal life, you know? Like, not to compare her to anybody, but if I was to compare to how I would think Aaliyah would be today, it would be like, you know, like a combination of J-Lo and Rihanna. Whereas you see J-Lo, she's still a big music artist. She still do music. Her music is still successful, but she's also in movies, TV shows. Yeah, I think she even got nominated for a Golden Globe for, I think she was in Hustlers. She still has that brand. She still has that notoriety of she's a big successful artist, but she still do movies and TV shows. She still has her deals and her businesses, just like Rihanna. Rihanna, big on the music, but she has her business deals. She has her businesses to the point where people are begging her for music. So I feel like Aaliyah would be a combination of both of them, where it's like she would be on top with the movies and the TVs, on top of the movie and the TV stardom, but she would still be a big music artist to where she would release music, she would release an album, and it would still do good. You know what I'm trying to say? And it might not be selling 1 million in a week, but it would still be successful, still debut in the top 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm trying to say? It even was a thing where back in the 90s, early 90s, they tried to make some type of beef. But you know, Aaliyah shut that down quick.
And now, you know what? I said that all the controversy was over, but it was one other thing. Brandy said some things that were said. Now, what did you hear what she actually...
I caught wind of some of it, but I don't pay much attention to that. I think there's room out here for all of us, so good luck, Brandy.
Ladies are professional. Video music box do.
And Brandy later showed that she did have love for Aaliyah too.
I want to give a shout out to my girl Aaliyah. I love you, girl. Really, I do. I'm a big fan.
And I remember maybe a few years ago, 2, 3 years ago, Monica did an interview with The Real, the TV show The Real, and she was talking about, you know, her Brandy and Monica feud and all that stuff like that. And she had this to say.
We are from a special elite group. It was her, Aaliyah, and myself. And it was a very special time where each of us were individuals. We did our own thing, and we all made our own mark. And the truth and reality is the only Grammy either of us has is together. So that, to me, says something special.
When you see Monica explain that, that is true. All the stuff that they say with Brandy and Monica, the only Grammy they got is together. So what does that tell you? You know what I'm trying to say? And when she said that, she said she came from a very elite group. Elite group, meaning it was her, Aaliyah, and Brandy. They were, in the 90s, early 90s, they were the top 3 main female teenage R&B singers. You know, the teenage R&B singers, black female teenage R&B singers, singing about, you know, mature content. They wasn't singing no kids bop songs. They were singing real love songs, real breakup songs, real songs that, you know, songs for adults. You know what I'm trying to say? They were 14, 15 at the time. 14, 15, 16 at the time. So it was like, damn, when she says that, and they were successful. Platinum albums, platinum singles, all over magazines, all over the TV screens. You know, they were those 3 main, they were the girls. They were the main 3. They were it. They were the it group. They were pop icons. They were R&B icons. They were music icons, period. And they still are today. The thing that separated Aaliyah from Brandy and Monica is that the Brandy and Monica, their style of singing was more similar, and I seen somebody describe it as more like pop soul that they did, whereas Aaliyah, when she first came out and in the middle, her style was more like smooth R&B, jazzy R&B, but Brandy and Monica, they had like that more pop soul where they used to really do like that type of, you know, they used to really do more of that powerhouse type singing, you know, with the vocal runs and the vocal expressions and things like that. Talking about The Boy's Mind, that's when people really try to use the argument of, oh, Aaliyah couldn't even outsell Brandy and Monica, because that song was so successful and so big, #1 for 13 weeks, it got them a Grammy together. Like, that's what people really harbor on when they say, oh, Aaliyah couldn't even outsell them. But it's like, to be honest, that same year, 1998, Aaliyah had Are You That Somebody, which was just as big of a song, but there were many things that prevented that song from going #1, which I also made another video on. I'm gonna leave right here, discussing why Are You That Somebody was a big hit, but it didn't really get that big chart, success. You know what I'm trying to say? It's right there. And the thing that really separated Monica from Brandy and Aaliyah is that Brandy and Aaliyah really established themselves as the triple threats. You know, music, singing, acting, dancing, that type of platform. Whereas Monica, she was only just, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but Monica was only really a singer, you know. I don't remember Monica being in TV shows. I don't remember her being in movies. I don't remember her being a big actress. I don't remember Monica, you know, doing like a business deal where it's like she had a clothing line, or she was a part of a campaign, or she had perfume out. Even all these years later, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't. She never established herself in like that triple threat brand deal type of status where she had her own businesses and endorsements, whereas Brandy and Aaliyah did. It really hit me when I remember Aaliyah got her wax figure last year, right, in Las Vegas, and I was on Twitter and somebody was like, oh, they only giving that to her because she died. What about Brandy and Monica? And I thought about it and I was like, that's a good question, but don't blame Aaliyah, because if anything, over the last 18 years, why hasn't Brandy and Monica been able to get a wax figure? But then I thought about it, Aaliyah really established herself image-wise, where, you know, Brandy, her image was more of like the braids and things like that, and Monica, her image was more like, people say like she was like the ghetto chick that could sing, but she could dress up when she wanted to, that type of thing. But Aaliyah really established herself as like an image, from the hair to the looks to the fashion, things like that. She really established a look and a brand for herself, even all these years later, where Aaliyah's a costume. Aaliyah's a Halloween costume. Aaliyah you pick Madame Tussauds, they could pick many different outfits from her videos, and people will recognize that. So you dress up as Aaliyah, people would say, oh, that's Aaliyah from this video, or that's Aaliyah from this photo shoot. But you think about it, Brandy and Monica, they never really established themselves in that type of essence to where it was like, if somebody dressed up as Brandy for Halloween, you would know who it is. Or somebody dressed up as Monica from Halloween, somebody dressed up as Monica for Halloween, you would know who it is. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like, they didn't establish themselves in that type of form, image-wise. I would say Brandy kind of with the Moesha, maybe one of her outfits, but just thinking about it, Aaliyah had many different outfits to where like, oh, try again, oh, you know that's the try again. The bra, the choker, the leather pants, the hair, everything like that. The makeup. Brandy and Monica, I was thinking like, if Brandy and Monica was to get a wax figure, what look would they choose? Because they didn't really have that image as far as like fashion wise or image wise or hair wise. I could say Brandy with the braids. And that's not a dig towards them, it's just the way they establish themselves and the way their brand and the way their image is seen all these years later. So when I seen that tweet about, oh, why Brandy and Monica don't have a wax figure, I'm like, that's a good question. And another thing, neither one of them have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and I'm like, as big as they were in the 90s, in the 2000s, all of them should have a wax figure, all of them should have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I know to some people they don't care. It's just a novelty. It's not really something that's like worth getting hyped about or getting mad about. But it's like, you know, these are accolades and these are accomplishments and these are like stamps of their like legendary status. So, oh, you're a wax figure, you really made it. You're a wax figure, you have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, you really submitted your legacy. You know what I'm trying to say? I said all this to say that's like the whole Aaliyah-Brandy-Monica discussion. Now, this is not to say you can't have your favorites, because I do. Aaliyah is my favorite, but it's like, I just wish that when people would, you know, people bring up Brandy and Monica and their feud, and then, you know, somehow all these years later, Aaliyah's name still get brought into it, and then it's become a debate and who can sing better, who can do this better. And now, like I said, people might say Aaliyah and Brandy. People might say Brandy and Monica sing better because they had more of that pop soul type of music, and they use more vocal expressions, they use more vocal acrobatics in their music. But, you know, Aaliyah still could hold her own with them. And I can see, as Brandy and Monica did The Boy's Mind, I wish that maybe Aaliyah and Brandy did a song. Aaliyah and Monica did a song, or maybe all three of them did a song together. Imagine how dope that would have been. You know what I'm trying to say? So with all that said, it's just like, with all that said, I just want to let it be known, from my opinion, all three of them are legends, all three of them are icons. They each made their impact in the industry, and they all deserve their flowers for what they brought to the industry and for what they still bring, and the influence that they have now, all these years later, 20 plus, 25 years later. So what do y'all guys think about the whole Brandy, Aaliyah, Monica feud, and the whole discussion about their legacies? And you know what I'm trying to say, where people try to downplay Aaliyah, and people try to downplay Aaliyah in support of Brandy and Monica, or people try to do the whole Brandy and Monica feud and feuding over who was better, who sung better, who was the best artist, who sold the most records. What about just acknowledging all their success? They all had success. They all are icons. They all are legends. All three of them made their impact in the industry, and you can still see it today. So what do y'all guys stand on that whole Aaliyah-Brandy-Monica debate? Do y'all agree with me? I mean, even if you have a favorite, do y'all agree with me when I say, like, we should be acknowledging all the success that they had without trying to make a debate? You know what I'm saying? These are three black women who started off as teenagers. They made their impact in the industry. They had the success, and you can still see it today. So to me, that's all I need to be said. You know what I'm trying to say? And I know about music debates, but it's like, you know, let's acknowledge the positive in it. Where do you guys stand on that? Where do y'all guys stand on that discussion and that debate? Let me know in the comments down below. What do y'all guys think about the whole Brandy, Aaliyah, Monica debacle? Let's talk about it down below in the comments. I can't wait to read your comments. I feel like this is going to be a real fun discussion. Let's try to keep it, you know, let's try to keep it nice. You know what I'm trying to say? And don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can always see when I post. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see y'all in the next video.